It's a mayoral rerun that could redefine Turkish politics. Istanbul is deciding between two main candidates. Binali Yildirim from President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's ruling AK party, and Ekrem Imamoglu from the opposition, and who was mayor for 18 days before a rerun was called. Imamoglu had won a tight race, but the courts agreed that there were voting irregularities and called a rerun.
Are we determined to keep going until Sunday, June 23rd? Are we ready to show our national will at the polls?
And that's exactly the point. This election is a big deal. Erdogan has long been tightening his grip on power and has been accused from many quarters of tipping Turkey into authoritarianism. Imamoglu says his campaign is a fight for Turkish democracy.
As a Turkish citizen and as a young university student, I support Imamoglu because I believe his projects are projects geared at solving real problems.
Erdogan's party, though, still have a lot of support.
I'm an individual who suffered during the times when those with their heads covered for religious reasons weren't able to pursue an education for 20 years. And 20 years later, I was able to get an education and become a teacher. The AK party was the vehicle for this. Our President Erdogan was the reason for this.
If he loses, the opposition is emboldened, and there will be renewed questions as to how long Erdogan can dominate Turkish politics.
For more now, let's bring in DW's Dorian Jones, who is following the elections in Istanbul for us. What can you tell us, Dorian, about today's turnout? How busy is it at polling stations?
Well, here at this polling station in Istanbul's Kadıköy district, a well-known stronghold of the opposition against President Erdogan, voting has been brisk since the opening of the station in a city that normally starts very late. And that really is seen as an indication of what is widely expected to be one of the highest turnouts in any major vote in Turkey. Similar reports all across the city, both from the opposition and from supporters of President Erdogan's candidate, Binali Yildirim. And people have been returning from all over the country to vote. They've been breaking their summer vacations to come back here. Hundreds of thousands of people have been coming back. All the roads have been locked. The airports have been full. As all sides, I think, see this vote as potentially one of the most important for the future of the country and for the future of democracy, because both sides say they are defending democracy. The opposition candidate, Ekrem Imamoglu, says that his victory was denied to him unfairly, while the candidate Binali Yildirim of President Erdogan is saying that he was a victim of fraud. So the stakes are very high on both sides.
Dorian, can you remind us why we're actually doing a rerun right now?
Well, it all centres on the razor-thin victory of Ekrem Imamoglu of the opposition. He won by around 14,000 votes in a really shock defeat for President Erdogan, who's dominated this city for 25 years. It's where his career started. He is from Istanbul, and it is the power base of the president. It's the most wealthy city in the country, accounts for nearly half the taxation, a third of the economy. In many ways, it's the adage goes, he who controls Istanbul is seen to control Turkey. And the loss of Istanbul was seen as a devastating blow to Erdogan. And his candidate, Binali Yildirim, said that he was a victim of voting irregularities. Now, that claim was denied, but the ruling authority, the electoral authority, said that there were some technicalities, ineligible voting monitors, and they ordered a very controversial decision to rerun this vote. And that is why the opposition are outraged. They say this is nothing more than a denial of democracy. So that is where we are at the moment.
You were suggesting that a defeat would say something about the strength of Erdogan's AK party. Would it hurt his ability to govern in any way? Any national consequences?
Well, I mean, Istanbul is seen as the second biggest prize in Turkish politics after the presidency. And for anyone who wins it, in many ways, they can set the agenda for the country. What they do in this country is closely watched. And in many ways, that's why the opposition see it as, in many ways, a platform to, in the end, ultimately challenging Erdogan. That is how Erdogan rose to power, using a similar path. He set out his stall in Istanbul and then went on to dominate politics. And that's why Erdogan sees, in many ways, it's such a threat. If the opposition do take Istanbul, it will be seen as one of the biggest blows to President Erdogan's rule.
Okay, thank you. Dorian Jones in Istanbul.